It started with skydiving. That was something he'd begged his father and me to let him do since he was little. He'd been paragliding since he was 14 and an avid skydiver once he turned 18. It was fun to a point, but there was always a next level to investigate and attempt. For Johnny, that next level was base, building, antenna, span, and earth, jumping, which you only do after a certain number of jumps from an airplane. The next step up the progressive ladder of danger is wearing a wingsuit and jumping from an airplane for a certain number of jumps. Then one must learn how to fly while wearing the suit. That requires jumping from a hot air balloon, provided you can get access to one. Johnny had wrangled time in a hot air balloon for that very purpose. You continue to practice and perfect your skills in the wingsuit until, years later, you literally fly from the edge of a cliff. Even the intense rush or thrill or skill of sailing off a cliff face isn't always enough. It wasn't nearly enough for Johnny. He took it a step further. Proximity wingsuiting is seeing just how close you can get to other objects, like trees, waterfalls, and cliffs, while flying by them at over 100 miles per hour. This is what gave base jumpers an even bigger thrill, an even greater sense of speed. The closer you were to an object, the more you felt the speed, and the less chance there was to correct any error. The photo was jarring. I was used to seeing photos and videos of him leaping out of airplanes and helicopters, from hot air balloons and bridges. I had never seen my son this close to the ground. This was something different. This was proximity wingsuit base jumping. Normally, when I wake up, the first thing I do is look at my cell phone. I didn't on the morning of October 1st, 2015, because the day before, I had dropped the phone into a toilet. It was sitting in a bag of rice, drying out, when I grabbed it as I walked out the door. I was feeling happy, content. I was 49 and had 3 remarkable children who were settling into their own lives. I was an independent divorced woman with a boyfriend and no plans to marry again. I got into my car, plugged my phone into the USB, not knowing whether or not it would work, and started the 35-minute drive to my home in Park City, Utah. 10 minutes into the drive, a call came over my Bluetooth. I recognized the number. It was my ex-husband's landline in Malibu. My brain went into hyperdrive. It couldn't be either of my daughters. Brianna was just arriving home in New York from her mini honeymoon. McKenna was also on the East Coast. None of the kids were in Malibu, which was an hour behind my time zone. Why would my ex be calling me at 7:30 in the morning Pacific time? I instinctively knew that I didn't want to know. "Why are you calling me?" I demanded. "Johnny," is all he could say. "Oh my God, I forgot to renew his global rescue insurance. This is going to cost a lot of money to get him home on a medical flight," I rambled, trying to will that scenario into reality. "No," he started. I don't remember the rest of what he said.
Introduction. Would you risk everything, including death, in order to feel fully alive? Or would you stick to the safe trail, following the reliable, worn path of others? To be clear, I'm asking if you would truly gamble with your one precious life in order to be fulfilled emotionally and spiritually. If you answered yes to this question, would you also allow your friends, loved ones, and children the same grace in choosing their own unique path? If you answered no, then this book may change your mind. I met Dianette in 1999, before the Eco Challenge in Borneo. Both of our teams were being featured by CBS's 48 Hours in a primetime special. Dianette and her husband had a complicated relationship, and that made for good television. I was 8 years clean and sober, which also makes for good TV, and I was still trying to find my way as a husband and father. Frankly, I think we were both way over our heads in this race, trying to be brave, but more than a little freaked out by the scope of this challenge, not to mention the great